Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Before we get to the actual video, I have to mention that we just reached 300 subscribers on my channel, and you have no idea how happy this makes me. I have been noticing that ever since I started using my actual voice in my videos, more people subscribed, which is great. I'm not gonna lie, at first I was a little hesitant to talk in my videos, but I'm happy it paid off. I just wanted to mention that and say thank you. So Netflix just released season 2 of Arcane, and of course I watched it pretty much right away. After all, I loved the first season so much and I was super excited to see what would happen next. And while watching the first episode, I had already decided to draw Jinx, since she is one of my favorite characters in the show, so I did just that. Or at least I tried. The drawing started out somewhat alright, but it quickly went downhill from there, so I will be playing the speed paint really quick, not going into detail on what I did. I wanted Jinx to look into the camera with her signature crazy eyes, and have a bunch of cool graffiti in the background. That was the original plan at least. But as you can see, things just looked off in every way possible, not to mention the colors. And I even thought about scrapping the video and moving on to the next project. I would have lost valuable time, but that's just how it goes sometimes. However, I still really wanted to draw Jinx, so I started a new drawing. Here I tried something new by drawing her in perspective. For that I first drew a figure in a box like this, to know where everything would go, and then I was able to draw the rectangle, the same way again to start the actual drawing. Drawing the figure in the rectangle was a little hard for me since I just learned about this method and I wanted to try it out in a real drawing. So later I asked a friend of mine to look at it and he was able to help me a lot. I fixed a bunch of things and now it looks better. It's always good to have a second person to look over your drawing to point out your mistakes. It really helps to get better, and most of the times you aren't even able to notice your mistakes because you have looked at your drawing for so long. Stepping away from the drawing can also help, but having a friend is definitely better. Jinx's clothing is super detailed, so I double and triple checked everything before I felt ready to do line art, which took a really long time. I'll make sure to speed this part up greatly, because the thicker parts I added for some ambient occlusion don't show up that well. I was hoping you would be able to see them a bit better, but whatever. At this stage I added the base colors first and tried to make them look more like the colors in the show. I'm not sure if this worked out so well, so you tell me. But it definitely looks better than if I had just picked them out like I usually do. I wanted to capture the dark and moody atmosphere of the show, and contrast that with the explosions in the background that I will get to shortly. Before that, I had to color everything in, however this took a really long time. Longer than expected actually, since Jinx has many details I didn't notice until I watched the show. Drawing pre-existing characters always opens your eyes about how much love and thought go into these characters and their designs. The background didn't take as much time as I thought it would, because I decided that mapping out the basic shapes would be enough. While planning this drawing I wanted to make it look really detailed, but while drawing Jinx I realized that I bit off more than I could chew on this one. The colorful clouds of smoke were really fun to draw though, and I made the Hextech crystal she is holding glow. I wanted to have it cast a blue light on her, but I will get to that later. Sadly the glow didn't work out the way I thought it would, so I decided to come back later for that part. First, it was time to decide where I wanted the shadows to go. For that I chose a bright blue to see which parts I had already worked on and to see everything better. I started at her head and tried to work my way down, which was a struggle. As you can probably hear in my voice, I'm not very satisfied with this drawing, but at least I feel better about it than the first one I made and showed you earlier. Though it was a bit of a disappointment at first, I had to remind myself that you have to produce a bunch of bad art to one day make some good art. This is the mentality that keeps me going when I feel bad about my lack of skills. Maybe this will help you too. I know it is definitely worth it to keep pushing through the bad art, though it might seem useless at that moment. My yearly redraw I just finished showed that to me pretty clearly once again. I always forget what progress I had made until the end of the year rolls around, and I get to redraw the very first drawing I did in Krita. It looks horrible of course, but I had to figure out the program at first. If you are interested in how I progressed this year and want to see this year's drawing, make sure to subscribe and I'll try to get that video ready for you guys as soon as possible. I definitely want to post it before the year ends. But back to this drawing. At this stage I began choosing the colors for the spaces I had selected with blue. And while I was doing that I realized that I totally forgot to add the stripes to her pants and the little bag on the sides, so I quit choosing the colors for a bit to draw those. Then it was back to choosing the colors. Shortly after I got back to it, and at this point I was nearing the end of the drawing process. That's because I decided not to add certain details. That's because they won't be visible anyway. It's already a bit hard to tell in the speed paint when I'm working on smaller parts. Some highlights like the ones on her hair were a must though, so I couldn't skip that. Jinx also needed that light on her face I hinted at earlier. This also didn't have the effect I wanted it to have, and I think that is because I still haven't figured out how to work with layer modes. I tried a few and then just used the one that gave me the best results. Lastly, I put a texture on the wall Jinx is standing on and added my watermark, and now I was done. My first full body drawing in perspective. Leave me a comment on what you think about it, and feel free to suggest a character or other stuff you want me to draw in the future. Thank you so much for watching, and take care!